I was a fall down drunk without a plan. I was a raging alcoholic, fall down drunk, and I had no way to get sober. I had no sober plan, but I needed a sober plan. Now, first I had to identify what I actually needed from my situation, where I was at. I had to get honest with what I needed, what I desired, and what that looked like. And so I desired that I wanted the suffering to stop. I wanted the pain to stop. I didn't want to get sober. But I knew that I wanted something different. I wanted that change. I didn't know how to get there, what that would look like, but I knew that I didn't like where I was at anymore. So I had to then find a trustworthy person. And I didn't have a lot of self-trust. I didn't know who safe people were. I wasn't a safe person with myself, but I ended up finding one person I could talk to about my secret. And that's really important. Because I don't think I would be where I'm at today if I didn't reach out that first time in that confidential setting. And I talked to that person and they held my hand. And that's what I needed. I just needed one person to hold my hand through this beginning phase, this beginning process, or just to help me acknowledge my situation. Like to help me feel like I'm not alone in my suffering. I don't have to do it alone anymore. And so I went to a doctor. I talked to a doctor, but not any doctor, one that I felt comfortable with. And that's the thing about finding that safe, trustworthy person is like someone that I felt comfortable with, that wasn't going to judge me, throw me under the bus, like that I felt safe with. And I didn't feel safe with a lot of things. So at that time, I talked to that one person, and that really helped me start my journey. And then, so here I am, 5 years down the road, still sober with continuous sobriety. Like it's been an amazing journey and very difficult, but it's working. It's working for me. So now I have that safe person. I know my desire. Now I have to make a sober plan. So now I'm at this place where I'm like, okay, I know these things. I have someone in my corner. Okay, now what do I do? How do I get there? Like, what is the how? And I basically start envisioning like what would be the perfect way for me to get sober? Like what would that look like for me to go away somewhere, for me to stop work for a little while, for me to just focus on this? Like I have to envision, like, what do I need? What does that look like? So in my case, I was like, okay, like meetings isn't going to work for me. Like I have to go somewhere. So I envisioned like, okay, I got to go somewhere, but I'm going to need some money. So I have to do some work till this time. And then I'm going to go there. And what am I going to do about the kids? And then I started envisioning, okay, I'm going to need the daycare. I'm going to need the time off. I'm going to need somewhere relatively close, I was thinking about the cost of stuff. Then I had questions to ask. Like I needed to get help with that cost if there was a cost. And I started, making phone calls and doing my research. All the while I had that support though from my safe person. And I already knew that I wanted the pain to stop. So now I have those things and my sober plan. And then now that I have my vision of what that looks like, I start thinking about, everything I need. And then I wrote it all down. And then I started to prioritize those needs to make that plan happen for me, to help create my sober plan for me. Like, this is like a personal inside job of like, only I know what I need. Only I know the way that's going to help me get what I need to get to sobriety, to get to being clean, to get to having some kind of change in my life. I have to go deep inside and like envision what that looks like, write it down, because those needs are going to help me get to that place. So I basically prioritized it all. And then I had to really give myself like a lot of time and patience, because it just didn't happen all at once. I had to kind of work through my priority list of those needs to get me through my first phase of sobriety. But when I started to get to work and just like figure out like what's the most important thing that I need, and like what does that time look like, and when, then I could really start checking off the boxes. I started making the plan real, and it did give me a bit of hope, like feeling like, okay, like instead of trying to figure out like, oh, like I'm a mess, how am I going to get through my entire life? And was like looking way too far down the road of how I'm going to fix my life. I had to just think about like, what's the next thing on the list that I need to do? Like now that I've written it all down and I know what my needs and desires are and that I want something different, but I start working on that priority list. And it's a lot easier to just go from the first item to the next item and the next item. I just have to follow this little priority list and plan that I'm creating to help me have the best chance and success at maybe getting sober, and because when I entered into that program, like that was the first part before I even ever got to an AA meeting in a program or a treatment center. That was the first part to help me just even to get to those points. But as I worked towards it, I started getting more support. Things started to happen and they started to see that this is possible. And then that gave me a bit of steam, right? And then what happened was, I had the plan, because I knew what my needs were. I knew what I wanted. I had the vision, and then I just had to stick to that plan. And then when I got into the center, I did a really good step one, and then I just really committed. Like I committed to the next step and the next step in the same way, like as a priority list, like going through each phase, step, emotion, day, thing that trauma thing that I had to resolve. My whole life was a wreckage and in shambles, and it was really overwhelming. But I think when I got just a bit organized on what I wanted and where I wanted to go and like how I was going to get there, it made it less disorganized and chaotic when I just started to put things kind of, in little sections and increments that I could see that were just what I needed, not what anyone else thinks or anyone else's approval or any input. Just I had to come up with like the things that I wanted and needed, and then figure out like how I could get there and like writing that down. So I found like a sober plan was just so necessary for me to actually make the change happen. Because when I envisioned it, I could see the goal. And when I envisioned it, I could identify the things that I personally needed. And when I got really real with just myself, like that this is exactly what's going to work for me. And that's all I know. And I just know if I do it any other way, I'm not going to get it done. I'm not going to get it done. So I just knew I actually needed to go somewhere. I needed to not have the kids. I needed the space to do it. And I just knew I wanted to live. I thought I didn't want to live and I didn't care. But then at the last second, I was like, maybe I do want to live. Maybe I should try. Like maybe I should really try at this getting sober stuff. And I went through all the steps in the program and I continued and I just kept executing things. And for a long time, I just had to get used to the fact that I'm doing this stuff without results. I'm going to be doing this stuff for a long time. It's going to be uncomfortable. I'm not going to always see the results. And the point isn't that I do it to get the result. The point is that I'm going to do it and have faith and believe that it is going to turn out the best for me. That one day it is, the storm clouds are going to break. And that's my hope. It's like, I'm just going to get on this path. I'm not going to know a lot of things for a long time. I need to let go of a lot of old beliefs and negative tapes in my head. And I need to just focus on that path for me to stay sober and get sober. And that one day it's just going to change and be different. And I'm going to be different. And trust in that process, that all this stuff is happening for my highest good, like for my best interests. And speaking from someone that has done the work and does the work, it is working for me. And it's just an amazing journey to be where I'm at today. And they say like the first 5 years is like the 5 years it takes you to really get your head out of there. You know, like it takes like, I think the first 5 years is all early recovery. Every single year in my recovery, I have learned massive amounts of information about people, places, things, and myself. And all of this learning and having clarity and sobriety has brought me to my authentic self. And now that I know my authentic self and that person is growing, I never want to give that up. Like, I don't think I've thought about drinks in years. Like, it was something that came across my mind, like in the very beginning because of all those losses. But like, it is just not a thing anymore. Like, so many things in the earlier few years of recovery aren't like that anymore. You know, it just does get calmer if you work at it. And like, that's just so great. I feel like I have an advantage. I feel like I have an advantage compared to other people that don't have any program at all, that are just, in and out of drinking, not really like, kind of purpose, not much purpose, like just like those in-betweeners. And like, I love that I did hit a bottom that brought me to a spiritual program, that brought me to a place where I just have that courage to be myself now and love myself. And, it's okay if people come and go or situations come and go. And I have the ability to adapt where, I was so controlling and terrified before and operating out of fear and insecurities. And that wasn't going to bring me the life that I want and that I have today. So just like, I think that just having a sober plan is really vital, and envisioning what that looks like and just being like, yeah, it is what I need. And it doesn't have to be okay with anyone else but me. Like, if I need it, I need to get it. Like, if that's what I need to get sober, I need to write that stuff down, put it in a priority, and start marking it all off. And that will get me closer to sobriety. But if I make a different story and it's not the real story for me, it'll be a different plan. It might not be the best plan for me. I need the real sober plan for me that's going to get me to sobriety. So I really hope that helps somebody out there who's struggling. And figure out like, what do you really want from the situation, who you could talk to, and then start identifying, like making up like, what's that plan? What do I see for me that I need? Write my needs down in a priority sequence, and then just start executing like biggest priority at a time, and when and how, like write it all down. It totally has helped me. So yeah, thanks guys for being here, and have a great day. Bye.